What's going on, everybody? It's Stock Picks by Tim, and I want to talk about PayPal today. And we're actually going to get into a couple of clips, and I will leave you guys the link below if you want to watch the whole thing. It's about a 55-minute webcast, but basically I cut it up for you, and we're going to go over a couple things. And at the end here, we're going to talk about Amazon and this potential partnership here with Venmo. And I think this is going to be a huge catalyst towards the end of the year for PayPal. Now, as for PayPal, I have talked about this one a couple videos ago. Typically I like to talk about small caps. I just see that as the opportunity in this current market. But there are definitely a couple of large caps, and I think PayPal is one of them that you definitely need to keep an eye on. But if you appreciate the content, make sure you like and subscribe. I put out daily videos, and let's get into this. Now, the first clip is going to be about digital wallets and just the growth there. And let's roll the clip.
But clearly digital payments is accelerating. And the third thing is the ascendancy of digital wallets in checkout. Clearly digital wallets are taking share. There are much less people entering their credit cards for an offline or an online transaction. And we're seeing all forms of digital wallets, including PayPal, take quite a bit of share in the checkout space. So I think those are lasting trends. It's been difficult to look at, the behavior of, all the 120 million customers we brought on in the last 2 years. Some segments are continuing on at very high levels. You've got other segments of the market that were in for a specific transaction and are now churning off from that. So I would say in general, you've got on all, doesn't matter the segment, they're all up substantially from several years ago. If you look year over year and index it to one, they're all significantly above that index level, but some are dropping off a little bit more, some are a little more stable, some are growing. So it's been difficult to predict. We clearly got a little bit ahead of ourselves in looking at, what was happening early on in the pandemic. But if you look at the underlying strength of our business, you look at fourth quarter, I think ex-eBay, our growth was 22%. You look at year over 2 year in fourth quarter ex-eBay, our growth was 25%. So we have a really strong underlying growth. We have a number of things that we're lapping, eBay and our highest growth quarters. But everything I see right now points to good strength in the core business.
All right, now this next segment is going to be touching on supply chain and inflation and just some headwinds that PayPal has dealt with. And, if you believe that inflation and supply chain issues are going to go away and you think this is transitory, then you could argue that it's definitely a golden opportunity to add into PayPal now while there's a bit of fear and while there's some short-term pessimism. Now let's roll the next clip.
Well, I think in the fourth quarter, the entire industry kind of underestimated the growth of e-commerce, especially as you went into the Cyber 5 and then into December. That was much lower than industry expectations, lower than our expectations, even though we were taking share. I mean, as best we can tell, and we try to extrapolate from all of the different e-commerce studies that are out there, they're like 4 or 5. But here in the U.S., I think we grew at about 2 times the rate of e-commerce. So we were clearly taking share, clearly growing well, but overall lower than expectations. And then on top of that, there were what I think are transitory things that were affecting. You had inflation, rising to 40-year highs. That was clearly impacting our lower income levels in our segment. And then you clearly had supply chain shortages affecting small businesses. Some of the larger businesses were able to commandeer their own boats and could really do their own logistics. But a lot of small businesses were really hit hard by supply chain and cross-border as well. I believe those will ease.
And next up, we're going to get into this piece regarding the third largest e-commerce market in the world and how PayPal's recent acquisition is going to benefit them greatly in that market.
We're very focused now on the opportunity in China, now that we have our license there, now that we finally got our infrastructure in place that's fully compliant and legal inside the country. Japan is a great example. Paydi, we did not buy Paydi because it's a leading buy now, pay later player in Japan, although it is. We bought it because Paydi has connections, wired connections to all the convenience stores in Japan. And Japan is a very different market. It's the third largest e-commerce market in the world. We did not play it domestically at all because it's predominantly paid for in cash, not by credit cards. And the cash is paid at those convenience stores. And that would have taken us years to be able to integrate into that. And so now the combination of Paydi and PayPal enables us to have both a domestic business in Japan, and we're talking to a lot of the FIs in Japan now as a result of that, as well as a cross-border business. And so I think there's a lot of opportunity internationally for us. We're very focused on China, Japan, Mexico, and our core markets, Western Europe, and a couple of others right now where we think there's a large amount of opportunity for net new actives to.
So talking about products, and you've already touched on this a couple of times, but you guys launched a lot of new products in 2021. Certainly more than in a single year than I can remember. Which are the ones, or at least the groupings, that you're most excited about, and how's that match up to where you're seeing with traction with customers?
Well, the example I would like to use is buy now, pay later. You know, that's being used at 1.2 million merchants now in 7 countries, 8 with Paydi in Japan. Over 12 million consumers have adopted it. I think our growth rate in Q4 was 200 or 300% year over year. The industry's at about 70%, and that's at a run rate of about 13 billion of TPV coming out of that. So it's not small anymore. And what it really said to me is, if we can put out a beautiful value proposition that is best in class, and I think our buy now, pay later is best in class. It is no fees to the merchant, so that it only adds 21% halo effect to the merchant. When somebody uses buy now, pay later, our service, their sales go up by 21%. We make incremental margin on all of that halo. 90% plus is incremental to us. We have no late fees for consumers, so we have a beautiful proposition there.
And next up, we're going to get into the most recent news that I'm aware of, at least, regarding Venmo and Amazon. And like I said, guys, this came out March 8th, so it was a couple weeks ago, but this is the most recent news, or a recent just update on Venmo and Amazon that I've seen. But we are expecting it this year. And let's roll the rest of that clip, and then I'll catch you guys at the end here.
Let's turn to Venmo. The announcement of getting Venmo's acceptance at Amazon, to me, it was huge, like watershed moment for PayPal in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And, you know, how should, like, I guess a few questions there. What's the latest update you can give us on Amazon integration? And more importantly, how does this bring benefit to PayPal? And ultimately, how are you bringing benefit to Amazon? And is this something where, you know, you can start to extend credit via Venmo so people can take advantage of that when they're making Amazon purchases? Like, what's the vision there, and where are we at in kind of the initial stages?
Yeah. Well, first of all, you know, Venmo last year, I think it was 230 billion of TPV, approaching $250 billion of TPV, growing at 44%. Just to put that in context, in 2017, PayPal in the U.S. was 200 billion, growing at 25%. And so it's, you know, 83 million accounts on Venmo only here in the U.S., right? And so if you think about the number of people in the U.S. and the number of people using Venmo, it's pretty extraordinary in terms of the potential. You know, it exited Q4 growing its revenues at about 80%, approximately about $250 million of revenues this year. We've said that it'll grow an incremental 50% plus on top of that on the revenue side. The Venmo team has done a real nice job putting a number of commerce-based services on that. And my analogy has always been like PayPal was a P2P service starting off. Then it went into eBay, and then it went into every merchant.
Right.
85% of all merchants in the U.S. or so. Venmo is going to follow that same track. Amazon was obviously a very significant announcement. It's the first really incremental wallet type of service that Amazon is going to integrate. We are both quite excited about the possibility of what it can do. There'll be some incremental functionality that you can do on Amazon. They're excited about, we're excited about. And teams are actively engaged. But what we have both said to each other is when we put it out, it has to be beautiful. And like both of us are exactly in that same camp. Like, let's make sure that it splashes when it goes out and it's a beautiful experience. And if you go out 1 or 2 months earlier and it's not perfect, like wait for 1 or 2 months.
Okay.
So, all focused on getting it out later this year. And as soon as we're ready to announce that,
You will?
You will.
All right. But coming this year, I guess.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know about all of you, but I personally see this potential partnership or deal, being able to use Venmo to buy things on Amazon, as a huge catalyst. And this is also kind of a way to buy things with Bitcoin on Amazon by proxy. I mean, technically, PayPal is getting your crypto, converting it to cash, and buying it in that way. But in a way, you're using your crypto to acquire things from Amazon. And I think this is going to be huge. And I do expect a nice pump. And I do expect PayPal to recover quite a bit over the rest of this year. And I'm taking it as a golden opportunity to buy it, especially under 100. But even where it's at, I do think it's definitely worthy of averaging in. But what are your thoughts on PayPal? And heck, what are your thoughts on Amazon? Let me know in the comments below. But thanks as always, guys. I'll be putting a video out tomorrow morning, so stay tuned for that. And see you next time.